that this was not to go out to the public, and the person who leaked it was at great risk. It was renounced as a hoax. And the Iron Mountain is hard to obtain, but it is on Stop the Crime and you still can get it. It looks deep into the soul of the New World Order. And it is a covert agenda to bring the world and America under the control of the United Nations. We see that happening now. And that is being implemented upon all of us without our knowledge or consent. As this documentary will prove beyond doubt, what you are about to hear is real. It is very disturbing, but it is real. It's also dangerous beyond belief, but it is real. It's frightening, and it's real. No person in America is safe, and the plans are coming to pass. It will talk about the rich men of the earth and how they're operating, and how we're being turned into a fascist police state. All the things that we're seeing now, this report will tell you. There's no regard for ethics, morality, or consideration for life itself. And that is crucial to understand, because we're good and decent people. We can't believe that there could be an agenda of this nature. At least I certainly didn't believe it. And when we flew back to Washington, D.C. a few years ago, my husband and I went to the records department, because there was a resolution that I had received from a friend, and it was about a paragraph, and it said that the United States Congress had given the authority to the Department of Defense to use chemicals and biologicals on the American population without our knowledge or consent. And I thought, this simply can't be real. This can't be real. They wouldn't use chemicals and biologicals on us. So we went to the records department, and I was half hoping that they wouldn't get the document, but they did. The document is about 4 inches high, and it's about half of the page of a 8.5 by 11 page. And we left when he was getting it for us, and he called us and told us it was ready to pick up, and that he had marked certain sections in it that he thought we would be most interested in. He told us that the document was in effect from 1977 to 1980. So we then have to talk about the bankruptcy of the United States. And this is important because this is United States Congressional Record, March 17th of 1993. And this is Speaker James Traficant from Ohio addressing the House. And this is extremely important, what he tells us. And actually he was put in prison for quite some time, for 8 years. They nearly killed him in prison. They wanted to silence him. And it is most important to understand what he said. And I'm going to read you just some excerpts of this, because I think it's that important. He says, Mr. Speaker, we are here now in Chapter 11. Members of Congress are official trustees presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity in the world's history, the U.S. government. We are setting forth, hopefully, a blueprint for our future. There are some who would say it's a coroner's report that will lead to our demise. It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act of March 9th, 1933, declared by President Roosevelt, being bankrupt and insolvent. The United States agencies, government offices, officers, and departments of the United States and federal government exist only in name only. The illusion. They're in name only. He goes on to tell us, and I will not read the entire congressional record, but I want to finish by saying, quote, he says, unwittingly, America has returned to its pre-American Revolution, feudal roots, whereby all land is held by a sovereign, and common people had no rights to hold a allodial title of property. Now, I've heard this at various meetings, that we don't own our property. And I've left and I thought, what are they talking about? We don't have a allodial title? Well, what does that mean? Well, we own our property, we're paying property taxes, and it seemed like we owned our property. They just haven't claimed it yet. And that's what's happening with UN Agenda 21 and the Wildlands Project. They're claiming their stuff. It goes on to tell us that once again, we the people are tenants and sharecroppers, renting our own property from a sovereign in the guise of the Federal Reserve Bank. We the people have exchanged one master for another. This has been going on over 80 years without the informed knowledge of the American people, without a voice protesting loud enough. Now it's easy to grasp why America is fundamentally bankrupt. Why don't more people own their properties outright? Why are 90% of Americans mortgaged to the hilt and have little or no assets after all debts and liabilities have been paid? Why does it feel like you are working harder and harder and getting less and less? We are reaping what has been sown, and the results of our harvest is a painful bankruptcy and a foreclosure on American property, precious liberties, and the way of life. Few of our elected representatives in Washington, D.C. have dared to tell you the truth. The federal United States is bankrupt. Our children will inherit this unpayable debt and the tyranny to enforce paying it. And we're seeing that tyranny of enforcement of paying our debt coming by way of climate action plans, One Bay Area plans. This is the tyranny to pay back the debt. Concluding, America has been completely bankrupt in world leadership, financial credit, and its reputation for courage, vision, and human rights. This is a declared economic war, bankruptcy, economic slavery of the most corrupt order. Wake up, America, and take your country back. He concluded with that, and he was put in prison for about 8 years. Now, we're going to start talking about locally and what we're seeing. Many of you may have seen this YouTube. It's a man being arrested at a local city council meeting because he went over the 3 minutes allotted to him. Now, many of you sitting in this room, I know, have attended meetings. I can tell you that we attended a meeting at the County Board of Supervisors, our concerns about fluoride. And there were many impassionate people at the microphone talking about fluoride. And they had law enforcement waiting in the wings. And anyone that went over the 3 minutes, the County Board of Supervisors gave a little hand sign. And the officers would approach whoever was at the podium and attempt to escort them away from the microphone. Now, Santa Rosa is not quite as harsh in their city council meetings. If someone impassionately goes over their 3 minutes, they turn the mic off. And they'll say, you're disruptive, and your time is up, and we're having a 5-minute break. And that's how they disable us. You've had your say, now go away. That's what we're hearing. Now we're going to see more and more frustrated people behind that mic at our city council meetings, airing their grievances, just like this man. He passed out to the people that were there at that meeting and to the board a packet of information on violations of personal property rights. They were telling him that there were code violations on his property that he needed to fix. They wanted him to disassemble a boat dock, apparently they had had for many, many years, and other aspects of personal property. And he was not getting any redress from the city. They weren't talking with him. They were coming on his property and threatening him. And he was saying, how can anyone have a business in this town? There's no communication. I can't talk to you. You're coming onto my property. He was very civil. This doesn't look civil because now he's being arrested. In fact, as I looked at the video, I was surprised that he was actually cuffed because he was standing there behind the mic very nicely talking to the people in front of him. Now, what's happening with that picture? Let's talk about that. This is what's happening. with that picture. Our cities are all incorporated. So what does that mean? They're listed on Dun and Bradstreet. Now this is a page from Dun and Bradstreet that I pulled on Sebastopol. It's incorporated, all caps, Sebastopol City Incorporated. And they're doing business. They're a private business listed on Dun and Bradstreet for profit. They're a private business. Right under the City of Sebastopol is listed Sebastopol Bearing and Hydraulic Company, Inc. Under that is Sebastopol Union Elementary School, again, an incorporated private for-profit business working for the government, for the corporate structure, implementing Common Core. Then we have under that Hot Monk Tavern in Sebastopol. So here we have a private for-profit corporation called the City of Sebastopol taking grants and signing and indebting all of us, just as Santa Rosa is, to paying back money that you know nothing about. They're incorporated so they can sign contracts and sign grants. That is the purpose of being incorporated. And they're enslaving us. That's why cities across America are going bankrupt. One of the reasons, I'm sure, why Cotati recently declared a financial emergency. So they're incorporated, they're doing business, and they're listed on Dun and Bradstreet. Then I went to the City of Sebastopol to get their public policy. It's a corporate public policy. Now, corporations have a public policy, and it's called the Delphi technique. It was invented by the Rand Corporation, and we've all been Delphied. At every single level of public meeting, at every single level of corporate meetings that we attend. And I can assure you, you're not being Delphied tonight. But I can tell you, before the holidays, we attended a number of Climate Action Plan public workshops. And they are not interested in a conversation. We're going to have a conversation after this presentation so we can talk about everything. But the public policies are corporate public policies. Again, they control what you say. They don't listen to you. They don't have to. They don't work for you. Your city councils, the county board of supervisors are corporate employees. They get their paychecks from the corporation. So does police. So does fire. You're going to have to think about that. And I urge you to go to stopthecrime.net and go to the Climate Action Plan link and get more information on this. Okay, this is a grant. This is why our cities and counties, states, federal, that's why they're all incorporated. Grants are their paychecks. This is a grant that we got from Sonoma County on the Climate Action Plan. This is only one grant of many that they've signed you on to implement something you know nothing about. And you have to pay it back. And they're going to increase your taxes. This grant is only for $1 million. This is a grant that they're going to share within all the jurisdictions of Sonoma County. So in other words, all the cities are going to get a piece of this pie. Sonoma County, Santa Rosa, Sebastopol, Cotati, Healdsburg, Windsor, Petaluma, Cloverdale, Sonoma. They're all going to divvy up this $1 million so that they can write this climate action plan and bring it in to all of their cities. Now, again, you have to think of the corporations doing business in order to sign grants and get money, and these are their paychecks.